Greetings, everyone. Welcome to episode 7 of the APO podcast, the unofficial podcast of Alpha Phi Omega Zeta Omicron chapter. My name is Gregg Yasuda, and my very special guest today is Kimberlee Yee, the Region 10 Director of Alpha Phi Omega. Kim, welcome.
Thank you.
I'm just going to roll through some of the rigmarole of the show. For the uninitiated, the APO podcast is a conversational podcast where we discuss recent chapter events and activities from the past week. This is going to be a special episode where we're just going to do an interview with the Region 10 Director. Kim, in my experience in Alpha Phi Omega, I think I've gone through a couple different region directors, and I think it started with, before Craig Tanner, I can't remember his name.
You're talking about Franklin Brodsky, or Henson. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, Henson. That's the name that was always sticking with me, but
that's his nickname.
Yeah, he actually was a big inspiration for me, early in Alpha Phi Omega. I met him at regionals, and I met him at sectional events, and he kind of motivated me to do exec board and be IC chair for Zeta Omicron when the next elections came around. So
that's great.
Actually, I don't know if you remember this, but the first IC event that I attended was the regional conference in UC Davis. I think that was in 2009, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the leads program, and then I did launch, and you were the instructor for that launch program.
I wish I could say I remember every person I've taught launch to, that I've taught launch so many times.
Yeah.
Launch online. I probably, if I saw you, I would go, oh yeah, I remember that and stuff.
Yeah. It's been quite some time, but yeah, it was you, and I think it was Craig Tanner, and you guys led that one, and it was like a big step for me for Alpha Phi Omega. So yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, Craig and I have a really good time presenting together. We've been friends for over 30 years, and it's really great to do a lot of things similar to each other. We kind of have a contest going. You know, one person does one thing, and then the other person has to compete and do the same. So it's been a really kind of fun contest because it just makes us better brothers. Mm-hmm. And we've done a lot of additional volunteering that we wouldn't necessarily have done if we had to egg each other on and push each other to do more. So
yeah,
a lot to think about.
We ended up doing co-positions for some of the VPs, like for fellowship, and yeah, I understand that dynamic. When I was doing fellowship, it was just us. We were both graduating that year, so we felt really busy, but we kept pushing each other to do better things for the chapter. So yeah, I get it. Let's go into some of your background. You were part of Alpha Xi, University of Pacific.
Yes.
Part of the Gamma Pledge class, fall 1983.
Yes, that was me. I know, it seems like so long ago. And, you know, it's funny because I was talking to a new active just recently, and they were saying, I said, you know, if you had asked me back then as a new active at a new pledge, if I would still be involved in Alpha Phi Omega, you know, this long from now, it's been over 30 years now, I would have told you no. And but it's just each time that I did more, where I was giving more of myself, of time and effort, and even dollars, because I donate money to the fraternity as well. It just makes, I just get back in tenfold. I mean, students that tell me, "Oh, you're a great presenter when I took right to daily social," or in my case, where I train presenters too, they say, "Oh, you taught me this, and now I do this, and now I do that." And it's really great to have that kind of, just, you know, that person got inspired by the things that you do. And a couple people called me their mentor, and I thought, wow, I didn't realize I had done that much for you, and I appreciate that you thanked me for it, or that, you know, and that kind of tells you, hey, I still have a lot to give, and it gives me a lot of chance to just do the things that I really find that I do well in the fraternity.
Yeah,
I wanted to be region director for a long, long time, but it just didn't have the confidence that I could do the job. Mm-hmm. And then when Craig became the region 10 director, because he had always wanted to do it, I told him whatever he wanted to be to help him with, that I would. And he started laughing because he made me his executive coordinator. And for 4 years, I worked under him and really learned the job and what it entails and all the different things. And it was the intent that when he stepped down after 2 terms that I would run for Region 10 director, and I did. So it was a big help that he helped me get the confidence to run, and I was really pleased that so many people in the region had the confidence to vote me into doing it. So I will be the last Region 10 director. Because as you know, we're going through restructuring the board, and the position will change to a region chair in 2016. So when I run again, I'll be running for the first region chair of Region 10. So it'll be different. It'll be fun and exciting because there's so much that we have left to do that we won't be able to get done in the rest of this term. So it'll be great to be able to do that too as well.
Yeah, that's great. Do you think that the fact that Region 10 is so large that it's kind of more difficult to do than some of the other regions, let's say?
Not necessarily, because we have, even though it's a large, travel, I can drive anywhere in Region 10, and or if I can't drive, I can fly. But to me, it's the amount of chapters that you have to kind of always deal with that makes it harder, and we have just the right amount of chapters at the moment. Not that we wouldn't want to have more, but it's very easy to work with the amount of chapters that we have in Region 10 and put together a staff that will help me be able to do that. Of course, there's the section chairs because we have 3 of them because we have 3 sections. But I also have a wonderful staff of people that some people only have the title of member at large, but that is so important to me because if I have a certain project that needs time and effort to it, I can assign it to that person, and they can do whatever they want to do and do great things, and that helps me out a lot as Region 10 director.
I see.
Because so much of my job now is board-based. Because I sit on the national board, I have to prioritize my work on that side before I can prioritize my work in Region 10. So that's the hard balance to maintain. So I really rely on my staff people, especially Kent Lee, who's my executive coordinator, to really help me keep that operational thing going and everything that's happening. And the people that I've got on staff are just absolutely fabulous, and they're going at it, and we're going to do great things.
I see. You mentioned that if you went back and asked yourself if you'd still be involved in Alpha Phi Omega so far down the road, you probably would have said no. But how was that transition from being an active member to being an alumni, and now you're the Region 10 director, soon to be Region 10 chair?
It was hard. And the reason why is that today, because a lot of us have been around for a long time and we knew how hard it was for us to get, in a sense, trained to be the things, to do what we do today, we had to find mentors. We had to find people that were either on the board or were, just really strong volunteers in the fraternity to move us forward. I think Earl Herbert, who was a past national president, and he was also a Region 10 director before he was the national president. And he taught me so many things. We had long conversations about different issues at the time and how he handled things. And when he passed away, it was just a really sad day for me because I really lost somebody who gave me the courage and gave me the insights to move forward. And I laugh, and there are a lot of us who felt that he was a great mentor to us, that anytime that we didn't know what we were going to do, we'd think to ourselves, what would Earl do? And when we did that, it helped us think of a better way to help a student or to answer a question or just to be honest with students, because he was so well loved. Everybody who met him loved him and felt like he was just this really big part of what the fraternity represented, especially in leadership, friendship, and service, especially friendship, because you were an instant friend, and he made you feel like you were welcome every time he met you. And it was funny because a lot of people get intimidated when you get on the national board because they go, oh, you're on the national board, or this. But, anytime you met Earl, even when he was a past national president, it wasn't like he ever was on the board. He never felt like a person that you could be uncomfortable with. He was always very welcoming. and very friendly. And I wanted to do that as much as I could as possible. And I still do want to do as much of that. And even though I'm the Region 10 director, I still want to be Kim Yee before I'm that. And so that person was just an alumni brother who was at one time an active. So I just want to remember what that's like too as well.
Do you think social media like Facebook and APO Online has helped connect alumni and I guess like the region board back to the chapters?
It's a lot, you know, selfishly, it's better for us as alumni because we live all over the country, and that's the way we see each other and talk to each other when we're not at a national convention or a regional conference or something. But I also think too is it gives me the opportunity to look at the students that ask to be my friends and to look at their pages and read their thoughts and just understand the world that they live in now. Understand what their chapter is going through now, because I see what kind of projects they do, what their officers do, whether other things they're involved in besides Alpha Phi Omega, because a lot of people do other service things. And so I kind of see where they're coming from and can understand, you know, the conflicts that they'll come up with, the struggles that they do. And also too, it makes me feel like I'm a little closer to them because I understand their side of it from the way they see it. And then I try to very much use social media on my own, and I'm always posting things that are positive and inspirational when it comes to leadership and service, so that they have ways of training themselves beyond just the things that are happening within the fraternity. We're lucky now as alumni. We have the APO Leads program that they can take as alumni and practice those skills. They can become a trainer and presenter for the APO Leads program. We have Membership Academy. We didn't have that before. We have the National Volunteer Conference. What a great and wonderful time for people who are alumni who want to learn more about what you do as an alumni. Is that conference that comes every other year, and it's really a huge help to the people that go there all the time. And I was really excited the first time that it came up. And I've been to pretty much all of them, and each time, this last time was the first time I actually went and got to not present or not be other than just to be involved. And it was really kind of neat just because I felt like it was almost like the first time I was going to the national because I learned a lot. I helped a lot.
Yeah, I was contacted by our historian because our historian coordinates the family alumni weekends. And in my opinion, that's the most difficult event to plan all year, just because it's so difficult getting alumni to come back to San Luis Obispo just for one event because everyone's busy with work, their schedules, vacation. So she contacted me to see if I was interested in assisting with alumni, I guess, relations, and if I wanted to get involved with the alumni. So I came up, this is how like this podcast kind of came up, was a way for me to connect with alumni and to have the chapter ask questions to alumni and get their input on their experiences in the chapter, whether they pledged in the 90s or in the early 2000s or from my generation from like 2008 to 2012. So
I think that's great. You know, as long as I've been around the fraternity, it's funny how it goes in cycles. And that sometimes the same issues and the same things that happen with every generation.
exactly.
And it's not that you treat them any different, it's just that you look at the situation at that moment and say, well, what are some of the things that you can do? And I never give my opinion on what I say, or I never say, back in my day, we used to do this. What I try to do is say, what do you think would help your chapter now? So I'm not constantly asking questions. What do you see in the people that could be a positive link or whatever? Leaders grow in a chapter not because they get a title, not because they're president or whatever. They grow from being able to have the responsibility to do more. Whether it's a service project chair, that's a huge leadership potential. And sometimes being able to be really effective and be very successful in managing a project will give you the confidence to take on more. And so that's why I tell everybody, I said, you know, sometimes we don't have the time, you know, we're all students, we have to graduate. That's the most important reason why we go to college anyways.
Yep.
But if we have some little successes, even if we're never the president and we still do great things, that's wonderful. I was never the president of my chapter, but I am really proud that I was the pledge class trainer.
Mm-hmm.
you know, as an educator. And so I think that was, to me, the most fun job and the hardest job I think we have in chapter is being able to inspire brand new people of what we do and teaching them how important our cardinal principles are and just becoming a person and becoming part of our family.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I was always pushing people to do leadership positions. I was IC chair 1 year, and then I did fellowship with another person as a co the following year. But anytime pledges would ask about exec board, I said, you don't necessarily have to do exec board. You could just take on projects as Rush chair, for example, or just coordinate part of Rush. Just do boothing. That's all you want to do. You say, this is how we're going to do boothing. And all those leadership opportunities, I think, are good, especially like after school, definitely, because when you get into the real world, you will take on projects and work with different people and have to meet your goals.
It's a big part of what we teach in the APO Leads program too, how important working in teams are and how important taking on those leadership roles and stuff are. Even, I don't know if you've taken SERV yet, but that SERV weekend course is very operational on how a chapter works, from delegating to meeting management to, we call it Gantt charts, which is a project list and coordination and stuff. But those tools are so important because they work really great in a chapter, from a service project to, you know, working with the exec board. And then you could take those same tools out into the real world and use them again. For example, you know, one of the great examples that Craig Tanner uses when he teaches launch is how important goals are. And with his company that he works with, each year when they do his evaluation, they ask him to make some smarter goals so that he can go through and they can agree that they match with the way the company's going, and they can move forward, and he can help the company's vision and mission be better. And it's all from something that he learned way back, you know, before he even joined the company. So I think it's really, so I think that anything that you can teach yourself leadership wise, whether you learn it through any of the programs that Alpha Phi Omega offers or anything else, there's tons of you know, bloggers out there that talk about leadership. There's people who write books that you can read. There's, I mean, if you just go into Barnes and Noble or any bookstore, there's a whole section on leadership, and any form is good as long as it works for you. We tend to use servant leadership in Alpha Phi Omega because it mimics what we preach in our cardinal principles. You know, being of service, being a friend, you know, being a leader, and that's what servant leadership is. Really connects with in so many ways. So that's why we choose that platform. But it's not the only platform that's out there for leadership. So I think it's important that you just expose yourself to as many different resources that you can, whether it's a book or a person or philosophy. It's just really great to have those experiences.
Yeah, Craig was the instructor for when I took Discover, and it really goes into the different types of where you fall into the group as part of a team, whether you're like a driver or not. And I remember driver because that's what I ended up getting, and it teaches you, because I was reading what the description of driver was, but after I did the evaluation, I didn't think that was me, but then that's what it ended up being. So it's interesting when you discover those things. Anyways, we kind of already touched on this, but how has AFIO kind of helped you in the real world and like what you're doing professionally now?
Well, actually, the current job I have now I've had for 3 years, and I had gotten laid off of my previous job. It took me a long time to find another job. But it was funny that when I brought up the fact that I was, in my interviews that I was a trainer and presenter for this leadership program for the APO Leads, and also the fact that I had done it for such a long time, as well as been a manager in previous lives and stuff, that helped me get the job that I got now. They were really impressed by just the fact that I went out and did this on a volunteer basis, and that my willingness to give back and to be of service was huge. And my boss said, he goes, that was one of the reasons we hired you, because we knew that you could work with people. And they're really impressed by that I go out and I travel across the country to teach, serve during the summer, and I take my own personal time off to do that, and they're very impressed by that. My whole company, even the CEO, is told me that's very impressive what you do. and stuff. It's all on your own time. So.
It's amazing when I do job interviews, or when I was doing even job interviews for internships, and I get to like the third person in the interview, and they were a brother of Alpha Phi Omega also, and they were from Michigan State, from University of Florida, and the whole that he could be quality assurance manager, and we don't talk about quality assurance at all. We just talk about being in Alpha Phi Omega and how it was in school, and it's always a good time to meet a brother outside. Even when I'm in the airport and I'm waiting for my flight and I see somebody with their letters on, you just flag them down and stop them, and you just start a conversation. So, yeah.
I've had that happen many times. I've also had people, because a lot of times when I'm leading a conference or leading some kind of training or leadership class, I taught about, some kind of APO gear on of some kind, and I was sitting there and someone would look at me and they'd go, "What is Alpha Phi Omega?" And so I have my 2-minute speech, my elevator speech. I tell them about, this, and then they go, "Really?" And they go, "You do this?" I said, "Oh yeah." I said, "I've been doing it for a little over 30 years now." I said, "I really enjoy it, and I find it's a good way to give back and pay it forward." And they're just amazed by that. I think that Alpha Phi Omega doesn't talk enough about itself, because we're probably the best kept secret, where we do thousands upon thousands of hours of community service in our neighborhoods and where, in the communities our schools are, and we just don't ever toot our own horn and say, "Hey, look at what we do." And part of that's because we're selfless, and the other part is we need to be a little bit more vocal about that, so that people know what we do, so people will find us and we'll get new members, because when somebody finds out what we're all about, they go, "Hey, I want to be part of that."
Definitely.
I think the next generation is much more, I guess I want to say, thoughtful in what can I do, and their outlook is not becoming some big part of some big organization. It's just, what are the little things I can do every day? I don't have to, I don't have to donate millions of dollars, but I can donate my time. I can donate my effort, and I can donate my attitude. And those are the things that make us really strong and really great. When we go in and we come in, and for example, there was a pledge class recently that told me that the project was, they went to this area in the town where just the whole walls were all graffiti and everything, and they painted the entire thing in one afternoon. There was like 20 or so of the pledge class that were there, and it was really, because when they got done, it was so amazing that they had done that, and they made the area look nicer again. And so they were pretty proud of that, and I think those kinds of the things that make a difference. And it's nice to see that we give service in many ways than just one. We do give money, but that's really rare. We often give ourselves more than we give, and we give of our time and our energy more than we do of just money and opportunity. I think that's what makes us great.
I remember for some of the pledge classes that we're going through when I was on exec board, we were always kind of discouraging them from just doing straight fundraisers and doing something, I don't know, outside of that. So the one I always remember is they set up a trail day, which is actually they'll hike through a trail, and then they'll find a section, and then they'll fix up the trail where like it's eroding and like it's a little bit too dangerous for hikers. So I think that ended up becoming a permanent thing that the chapter does consistently now, and it's really, yeah, it's great for San Luis Obispo because everyone goes hiking out there. So yeah,
that's neat.
Anyways, I think let's move on to a section I've developed in calling Fireside Chat, which is just kind of some random questions. If you could have any other profession other than the one you're doing now, what would you like to do? And salary is not really a consideration, just something that you've always wanted to do.
I always wanted to be a writer.
Really? Like journalism or like fictional novels? Or
like either a novelist or a playwright. Because I've been involved in theater since I was in second grade, and I've always wanted to write for the theater. I don't know if I'd write a musical as much, but I'd like to write some plays. I know that for sure that I've got at least a few novels in me, so I'd love to, when I have some time. I think once my kids get through college, I'll be able to have a few more hours in the day, and then I'm just thinking too, is one of the things I've read from a lot of different writers is that you should always carry a notebook with you and just write ideas down. You know, when you think of an idea, write it down. Because that's how really great novels started, was from little ideas that they got from nowhere. J.K. Rowling, for example, said that Harry Potter came to her when she was riding on a train one time. And she thought, oh, he's riding on a train, he's going to school, and everything just happened in her head. And she said, luckily, she had some paper with her. She had a napkin or something, and she scrawled it on this thing so she can remember all the things she was thinking at that time. So that's what I think that, you know, I'm going to just have to just make sure I carry a notebook so I can do this kind of thing. So eventually, when I decide to write, I'll have all those ideas written down.
I think we talked about it, but social media kind of allows you to kind of do those things now.
And I do that a little bit now too.
Yeah, you can like make your own website, and it's not difficult, or you have to write code anymore. You can use different services, and they'll kind of do all the hard work for you.
Yeah. I had one for a while. I'm not really good about keeping it up, but when I do, I take a moment and really write and stuff. So it's out there now. People can find it. I started getting into it for a while. I just have to give some more time to it. Maybe once a week I should just actually set some time and put actually something down on it and have some fun.
What profession would you not do under any circumstances?
A plumber.
Plumber? Yes. So like kind of like you've seen like Dirty Jobs, kind of like that.
Well, I've had so many plumbing disasters in my house. It's just the amount of mess that it creates. I just don't want it. I don't want to have to be a plumber.
Yeah, I could understand that. Definitely. I think we're kind of going to wrap it up pretty soon, but do you have any like words of wisdom for Zeta Omicron?
Well, you know, I think if I could be wise in any way, shape, or form, I'd want them just to know that no matter where they are in their lives, whether it's college or after college or even when they get old, is just to be yourself. Be honest with yourself about who you are. Don't try to be something you're not. And being honest about yourself and being honest with other people is what helps you build real, true relationships. I've got friends I've had forever, and sometimes we don't get to keep in touch that much because we don't live in the same place anymore. But when we do get together, it's like we've never been apart. You know, you have this conversation, you talk about everything, and you just feel so comfortable. It's because you've always been honest with that relationship. And so I think that just try to just be yourself and be true to yourself. Don't be who the true of you are, and that's what's important. Everybody's unique, but nobody wants to be unique. And I think that that's what's great about learning about new people and getting to know each pledge class I get to know, and each new member that comes up to me. I really am proud of the new members that come up to me and say, "Hi, I'm a pledge, but I really just wanted to meet you. Is it okay if I ask you a few questions?" And I just love that they have the courage to do that. And I always take the moment to talk to them and answer the questions they want to know about me or the fraternity or whatever. I think it's kind of cool.
It kind of reminds me of when the first region conference I went to at Davis, and I saw Maggie Katz, and she was the president at the time, and it just seems so daunting to kind of see her as kind of like this starstruck celebrity kind of thing, because we were learning about her during pledging, and then we had a small conversation about the workshops and Alpha Phi Omega, and yeah, it's great. Anyways, thank you, Kim, for taking the time to sit down with me and talk about your experience with Alpha Phi Omega. I know we didn't talk about all of it, and I'm sure you have plenty of stories that you can go into.
Yeah, I have lots.
But I don't know, maybe we can do a follow-up sometime in the future. Yeah.
Oh, that would be great. And I know, and just ask. And I always think it's fun. It's like, what do they want to know about me? Because I'm pretty honest. I'll tell anything about my life history. I never filter anything or anything like that. I think it's important for them to understand that I'm a human being and stuff. So I think that, you know, if they have some great, exciting questions they want to ask, even if they want to ask my opinion on things, because I always will give my opinion. It may not necessarily be the opinion of the board, but I always say this is my opinion and qualify it, but I let people know how to feel about different things and stuff.
Definitely. Well, anyways, I think that just about wraps it up. Anyone listening, if you have any questions for the show or anything for Kim, I guess you can direct it to her directly. at your email, which was it's escaping me, Kimberlee.Yee@gmail.com, or
the Region 10 director. You could, so it's region.10.director@apo.org.
would you prefer them to use that one?
Either one, because it actually goes to that Gmail site. It's hooked up to that. So but that would sometimes it's easier to remember.
Okay.
Unless you remember it's my first initial dot my last name @gmail. Remember it that way too.
Okay. I'll put both of those in the show notes, and then.
And if they're looking for me, I'm on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. And my alias on the web is Kimathon. It's KIMATHON. So I'm real easy to find.
If you like the show and want to hear more, please head over to YouTube page on APO Podcast and like the page, subscribe. If you have any questions, you could send them directly to me or to me at apozopodcast@gmail.com. And that just about wraps it up. In leadership, friendship, and service, this has been Gregg Yasuda and Kimberlee Yee. Thank you. Have a good night.